Hi everybody, my name is Blimie. I'm a parenting coach and educator who is very, very passionate about supporting parents in building relationships with their children based on respect and trust. So I'm going to be on for 15 minutes to answer some questions that I received. You're also welcome. Hi everybody. You're also welcome to ask questions here. If I have time, I'll get to them. I'll be on again in August to answer more of your questions. So if I didn't get to today, I can always get to them later. So here's a question that I got prior to this live. It says, I've been trying to switch to unconditional parenting, but to be honest, I'm not always okay when my kids choose not to listen to me. What can I do? So yeah, I totally hear this question because as parents, there's different reasons why we might want our children to, and again, when someone says listen to me, I'm assuming they mean obey or comply with, because I'm sure they're listening, but they're choosing not to follow what you said. And yeah, like for me, I actually would love to have a conversation, like more of a conversation with this parent and ask them, like why do they want their children, again, I totally understand why anybody would want their child to comply with them. I have reasons why I want that too. But what their reasons are for that, is it that they have this idea that respecting their parent means complying with them, and if the child doesn't comply, it means they don't respect them? Is it because they just need to make sure the child is doing what needs to get done, like taking baths and brushing their teeth and being safe or whatever? And if the child isn't complying with those things, it said my connection is not that great. I hope that you can hear me now. So oh no, it looks like can everyone hear me? I don't know what's going on. Okay, it looks like it's working for now. People are joining. Hi. Okay, so so do you want the child to comply, because in order to make sure that important things get done, right? And so depending on what whoever this person asked the question, right, answer is, then my answer to that would also be different, right? If it's, because then complying with me is respect, then I would want to break that down. I'd want to break down, like, why is compliance respect? Where did they get that from? Is it, even if they did get it from somewhere, is it their job to make their children respect them? Or like, what is their job as a parent? So there's so much to go through that, and like, what does it do for them inside, and about processing their own feelings around it. But let's talk about the part where, like, practically it's just, you need your children to do certain things. Now for me, I would definitely, first of all, I believe that just because a child, let's say, is like, I don't want to do it, or chooses not to comply with a parent, there's still so much to work with. I don't think that that's the be all and end all. It's not like if a child turns away and says, I don't want to, or I'm not going to, that's the end of the conversation. For me, I look deeper than that. And when a child is saying no, or, choosing not to comply, the way I see it is that there's a need underneath that. There's a need that the child is wanting to care for, and that's why they're saying no. And for me, I can then get curious about what that is, and then work together with my child towards the thing that we need to do. So I find that, like, let's say in traditional or mainstream parenting, it's very, I don't know which word to use to describe this, but it seems like there's only one way. It's you say something, either your child complies or they don't comply. And if they don't comply, now we have to find ways to make them comply. And the ways to do that are to, like, punish them, reward them, threaten them, bribe them, all more or less the same, following the same sort of idea. And really, to me, there's like a whole world out there of possibilities. There's a whole way of seeing it differently and understanding it differently and navigating these moments in a way that the important thing that needs to get done ends up getting done. and the important values of yours end up being transmitted, but not in a way where like we're forcing them onto the child or, you know, enforcing something. To me, I have such a hard time with that idea. Even though as a parent myself, I sometimes struggle not to force something onto my child. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to pretend that I sometimes don't struggle with that. But I still can't really, if you're asking me, like, do you agree with the fact that you do it to your own child? No, I can't get behind it really. Meaning I definitely believe in different ways of navigating the situations and not forcing things onto our children, but working together with them as much as possible. Now, again, are there moments where like it's really, really hard and we end up doing it? For sure. But I'm talking about we're having a mindset or an understanding and knowing different strategies or ways to navigate situations when our children are not complying with us, so that important things that need to get done. Now, here's the interesting thing that I've noticed in my own experience is that the more I actually started leaning away from like forcing compliance, the more I started understanding where my children were coming from, working together, etc. Ironically, the more compliance I got. Meaning that I think what happens when we do that is oftentimes children get a sense of, my parent respects me, my parent cares about what I care about, my needs are important to my parent. If my parent is curious about what's going on for me, and because of that, they feel sometimes they feel less resistance when a parent says, oh, I need this to be done. They feel more of like, okay, if most of the time my parent is willing to work with me, understands where I'm coming from, it seems to have my best interests in mind, etc., then okay, this one time where like maybe I'm not so happy about it, or maybe I don't get it exactly, there's enough trust and respect in the relationship that I'm going to comply. Now again, does it mean that I always do? No, absolutely not. Because, and again, if that was the case, that means that as a parent, we're falling back into the same pattern of, you know, I'm a parent, you need to comply. If you don't comply, I'm going to enforce it. So what I would say to this parent saying like, I'm not always okay when my children choose not to listen to me, the parent said, what can I do? I would say, like, again, I would say, ask, where does it come from? Why is it that you want that? Like I said, if it's practical, I can help you with that. There's many different ways, like I said, to understand where they're coming from, work together, etc. If it's coming from a place where like you have this very strong belief that they should listen, and if they listen, that means that they're respectful, then you might want to work that out within yourself and see what you believe, or, you know, again. And that's the thing, is that sometimes people come down to this realization of like, I don't know if I can get behind this. Like, I don't know if I agree with it completely, or I don't know, you know, and the thing is that if that's the case, and maybe this approach is not for you, or maybe there's certain things that you can take from it and certain things you might leave, or, you know, again, I definitely, for me, I definitely believe very strongly in it, but maybe it's not for everyone, you know. I want every parent to check with themselves and come to a place where they see the beauty in it and they see the value in it and they really deeply understand it. If we're doing something that we don't fully agree with or don't fully understand, then either we should look more further into it, or not either, probably the best thing is to look further into it and see where we really stand and what we really believe when it comes down to it. Okay, so I see it's already 9:40, which is getting, I think I have time for one more question, which is actually very, in some ways, touches on some of the points that we mentioned. So it says, how can I parent in a way that my kids take me seriously if I am not punishing them? And I actually get this question sometimes. So people will say, okay, so you advocate, your respectful approach is not punishing, but then how will my kids take me seriously? And to me, I so understand that question. And also, at the same time, I recognize that it comes from a certain paradigm. I remember when I first came across, like, whatever you want to call it. I don't like these names, but unconditional parenting, respectful parenting. When I came across it for the first time, or for the first like year, maybe, or half a year, I remember anytime somebody would say like, we don't punish, or, you know, but our children still don't just run around and do whatever they want. I remember thinking like, that doesn't make any sense. I don't understand what you're saying. How is that possible? And I so understand where this parent's coming from. It's like, if I don't back up my words with, you know, some sort of like consequence, then how are they taking me seriously? And this is really a hard answer for the same way the last one was also a hard answer for me to answer really like, let's say al regal achas, like on one foot. It is challenging also for me to answer this question on one foot, but I'm going to try. And so what I want to say is that this parenting approach is it's not about, and that's why it touches on the last question. It's not, I say something as the parent, you need to comply. And if you don't comply, this is what I'm going to do to you to make sure you comply. If that's our approach, then yeah, of course, then not punishing them, they don't take you seriously because then what do? You say, okay, you need to comply with me. The child doesn't comply. And then you're just like, okay, I guess I'm just going to do nothing. Right. And so you're like, I have no way of getting my kids to comply or letting them know how serious it is if they don't comply. I don't have a way to do it if I don't punish or reward or something. Right. And so that's the thing, is that this entire approach is so radically different than anything you're probably used to. It's not about getting kids to comply. It's not, again, do we sometimes need our children's compliance? Like I said before, does it sometimes happen that I need my children's compliance and they do comply? Absolutely. But as a general rule, or like the way I operate or like to operate or try to, is to, somebody said, I think it's like intuitive parenting. Yeah, I think so too, but everyone has a different thing of what's intuitive. Yeah, and so I try to work together with my children. It's not, you need to comply. So, because in my understanding, my children care about themselves just as much as I care about them. And sometimes it's just a matter of like, they have different priorities in those moments, or maybe they don't understand the importance of what I'm asking for of them, or maybe they feel like I don't understand what's important to them, so they have a hard time understanding what's important to me. And so for me, it's more, this approach is more about coming alongside my children, working together with them, not having this sort of approach of like, I'm the parent, I say that you need to do this, and if you don't do it, this is what's going to happen to you. Now, again, are there situations where, let's say, for safety or something like that, we need to put certain protections in place, or we need to make, use what we call the protective use of force, a term coined by Dr. Marshall Rosenberg, in order to ensure safety? Yes, sometimes we do need to do that. But that's very, like, we use that, it's not very often that we resort to that, because we really have so many other strategies to work together with our children. Really, think about it like this, like what's our goal as parents? That's where I start. Let's start from the very beginning. What's our goal as parents? What are we supposed to be doing? What's our main focus here? And all of us have no clue really what that is. I didn't know what it was. And so I would just like be operating off of like, okay, my children need to comply. I need to make sure they listen to me, and therefore I need to do this and this, punish them, or, have charts in order to make sure they listen to me. To me, that's a very like short-sighted way of looking at parenting. It's like, what's my goal? What do I want? What am I trying to accomplish here? And for me, the way to accomplish all the things I want to accomplish is through relationship, through connection, and through coming alongside my children. I just think that this whole like way that we've been doing things, I don't know where it started or originated from, or maybe it worked at one point, whatever. But to me, it's sad in a way, because I think there's such, like, I think parenting is hard. It will be hard regardless, especially with young children. But I think there is a beauty and a joy and an ease that is so missed out on in parenting when we take an approach of like, you need to comply with me. If you don't comply with me, I'm going to punish you. It really creates from the very start an adversarial approach. I mean, how close would you feel with somebody who, let's speak about spouse relationships or friend relationships, like your spouse and your friends don't do that to you and say like, if you don't comply with me, I'm going to punish you. And right now, and that's another point that I want to say is, why do you take anybody seriously in your life as an adult? Why do you take people seriously? Probably because you're close to them, probably because you trust them, probably because you respect them, right? And so that's for me why I imagine my children take me seriously, because I try to, as much as possible, engage with them in a way that builds trust and respect, where they feel respected, where I act in respectable ways, again, with human lapses, where I try to build that trust every single day. And so therefore, my words carry weight to them. It means something to them when I say something. It's not just like, it's not flippant. It's not just like, there's another random weird person saying something. It's somebody that matters to them and that they actually value and that they look up to or whatever. And so that's why I would want my children to take me seriously, not because I'm punishing them and because I can use force over them. Anybody can do that. All of us can try to use force over another. That is a very superficial way of having someone take us seriously. They're not really actually taking us seriously. It's just that they're afraid of what might happen if they don't, and so that's not the kind of relationship that I want to build with my children. I want to have a relationship, like I said, that's why I say, what do I do? I help parents build relationships with their children based on respect and trust. That's really what I'm looking for. And through that, helping children grow into the people, hopefully, that we want them to be, growing, contributing, responsible, caring, kind human beings, right? And I believe the way to do that is to be the very things that we want them to be, and to guide them in a way where we work together as much as possible. Of course, not always is it possible. Like I said, sometimes we might have to use a protective use of force. Sometimes things in the moment, we don't have the luxury. But overall, I believe we could take a very different approach. We could take an approach of coming alongside our children, of working together with them, of respecting them, building that trust. And like I said, in that way, they would take us seriously. I think I went on a tangent. I was going to finish a thought, but I think I didn't finish it all the way because I mixed it together with this other thought about children taking us, why would we take people seriously? I don't know. I feel like I wanted to finish a thought over there, but I don't remember what it was. Either way, I see my time is up here. But if you're getting the picture, if you heard a little bit of this, you'll understand that how my approach maybe differs from the philosophy that you've been raised with or what you've seen around. It's a different paradigm. It's a different perspective. It's a different way of doing things. And sometimes it might feel scary when it's new and different. It's like, I don't know, what is this? I don't want this, especially if my kids are not going to listen to me. Like, what kind of leverage do I have? What kind of say do I have? Like, they're not going to take me seriously. It feels very new and different. And I totally have so much compassion for that. Like I said, I felt that way in the beginning when I heard about it too a lot. And at the same time, the more that you understand it, the more these questions sort of fall away, and you start realizing like, oh, this is just a whole different way of doing things and being with our children. It's like a relationship, just like any other. They happen to be little humans. Yes, they struggle more with impulse control and emotional regulation, and they definitely need our help more than others, and they definitely need us to protect them and to guide them and to lead them. But at the end of the day, they're also really humans. And so in a lot of ways, we can relate to them the way we relate to all humans, with obviously a few tweaks because we have a different role than they do in this lifetime. So I hope that somewhat answers the questions that I received. Again, I'm going to be back again in August. So if you have other questions, clarifying questions, follow-up questions, or totally new and unrelated questions, I welcome them. So I hope to see you all next time. Thank you for joining. Take care. Bye-bye. Oh, right. Oh, there you go.